Yo, Amateur Lore here, and it's pretty much time. March Madness is here, and for the next couple of weeks, the whole entire country is going to be tuned in to see which lucky team out of the 64 chosen will immortalize themselves forever. So for this video, I'm going to be taking a look at some of your hot takes for March Madness and giving my thoughts on them. So big thanks to everybody who commented their hot takes over the last couple of weeks. And before we jump into the video, y'all let me know if you'd like to see me do a recap after each week, like the GOAT irritating tree does for football, but I'll do it for March Madness. I'll be shitting plant for March Madness. Let me know if you want that. Anyway, let's jump right into some hot takes for the men's basketball tournament. Starting this video off with a spicy one from the Cody Plays MVP, who says Maryland will get upset in the first round to whoever they play. Now, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. I think Bird might be onto something. And I'm not saying that because I think the Terps are bad, as they've been really good this season, finishing the regular season with a record of 25-8 with plenty of big wins. And in the Big Ten Conference tourney, they played really well against the eventual conference champs, the Michigan Wolverines, as they looked like they had clutched the game up at the line with less than 5 seconds on the clock, until with 0 timeouts, the Wolverines guard Trey Donaldson would go coast to coast, winning the game on a buzzer beater layup 81-80. And while the Terps would lose, they did look really impressive and would earn the 4th seed to the big dance. Now, why I think this take has a chance is because the team they're matched up against in round 1 is the 13th seeded Grand Canyon Lopes. From the limited action I've seen this team play in, there was a couple of things I took away from the squad. 1, they play solid defense, and 2, they have a couple of dudes who can get you buckets. Like their leading scorer, Jacoby Coles, who likes to work in the paint, and someone who I really think could be the X factor for GCU, their 6'7" guard, Tyon Grant Foster, who averaged just under 15 this year and really started to turn things up in the Western Atlantic Conference tourney. He's long with a smooth handle and can get his own shot anytime he wants. If you ask me, I'm still leaning the Terps just because their body of work was much more impressive to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cody Plays take came true. Next hot take is coming from Ranked Replays LOL, who says BYU is going to go to the Elite 8. 3-point shooting will carry, Saunders will put the tourney run on his back. I actually really like this BYU squad. Since I work during the day, I only catch like 10 PM games most of the time, and long story short, BYU clutched up so many parlays for me during the witching hours, so yeah, I love me some Cougars. One thing that is really going in BYU's favor is that they've gotten extremely hot at the perfect time, as I know they lost the Big 12 championship game to Houston, but before that the Cougars were riding a 9-game winning streak with 4 top 25 wins against Kansas, Arizona, and Iowa State twice, with Richie Saunders balling out in most of these games, as he and the rest of the team have been shooting lights out during the second half of the college basketball season. If BYU keeps shooting a high percentage from 3 and Richie Saunders can be the bucket getter his team needs him to be, then I really think they might have a shot at making the Elite 8. But it's going to be tough because they're on the side of the bracket where they would need to take down the 3rd seeded Wisconsin Badgers and the 2nd seeded Alabama Crimson Tide. Neither of those teams are jokes, as Alabama was fighting for the 1 seed pretty much up until a couple of days ago, and Wisconsin nearly won the Big Ten Conference Championship. In my opinion, the Cougars are going to have to be able to drive to the paint and get teams in foul trouble and earn free buckets from the stripe, because in their last 3 losses of the year, their 3-point shooting was below 29%, and I just worry that if they're not knocking down threes, how can they keep up with teams who can give you buckets from all 3 levels? So Ranked Replays LOL, I like your take, it's making the water boil. I just don't know if the Cougars are deep enough for the long journey that is the road to the Elite 8. Damn, these takes just keep getting hotter. So our next one is from our guy Adley Took Your Daddy, who says Liberty will go on a run and make the Elite 8 while Caden Matheny averages 30 a game. Yeah, before Brody left this comment, I was not very hip on this Liberty basketball team, but after watching some of their Conference USA tourney highlights, I kinda see the vision, bro. This team has 2 guards who are absolutely lights out from deep, one of them being Caden Matheny and the other being Talon Peter. When I tell you these dudes can pull up from the logo, I mean it, and they're not just spot up shooters, they can create their own shots off the dribble and create for others, which is extremely important for a deep March Madness run. I don't know if Matheny can average a 30 bomb just because I low-key feel like the other guard I mentioned earlier, Talon Peter, might be the guy for this team in the tourney. As for Liberty making an Elite 8 run, it's possible. They have an elite defense that only allows 62.9 points per game, which is 10th best in the country. And their first game of prom is versus Oregon, which I haven't been too high on this season, so I could see them pulling out the win. And if that were to happen, they'd play the winner of Arizona/Akron, which I think Liberty could beat either team. I think the problem comes in their potential Sweet 16 matchup, which would most likely be against the Duke Blue Devils. I really can't see a world where the Liberty Flames can take down this Duke Blue Devils team. I'm not even the biggest fan of Duke, but one requirement for me to believe a team will make a deep run in March is having size. And this Flame squad doesn't have a player over 6'9" getting significant minutes. So I think for them to make it to the Elite 8, it's going to be tough, but it could be done. Nice take, Adley Took Your Daddy. Next take is from Carter Lavelle 2712, who says, I think Jeremiah Fears and the Sooners are going to be the Cinderella of March. First thing I will say is I love Jeremiah Fears' game. Brody is so smooth with the rock in his hand and has an extremely soft touch around the rim. I wouldn't be surprised if versus the UConn Huskies, Jeremiah Fears had a huge night and helped the Sooners take down the defending national champs. But I'm going to be honest with you, Brody. After that, if they were to win versus the Huskies, that is where the Sooners tournament run is coming to an end, because their next hypothetical matchup would be against my Florida Gators. And this Gator squad is so complete this year. And the last time these two teams matched up, Florida gave them the business 85-63. So while I appreciate the take, I just can't see the Oklahoma Sooners going on a deep run this year in March. But hey, if I'm wrong, feel free to come back to this video and comment how ass I am. Moving on to our next scorching take. Homie AceFist5502 says, Gonzaga and St. Mary's will be first rounded. The WCC championship was a terrible game for both of them, and it felt like the Gales performed slightly worse, resulting in their loss. Both are shells of their former selves, and I think they will be done. Alright, well this take is definitely a hot one because I can't really see Gonzaga losing to the Georgia Bulldogs in their first game. I know Gonzaga hasn't had the season most of the college basketball world is used to seeing, but they still have been pretty good, winning their conference tourney and taking down a ranked Baylor team earlier in the season, as well as playing the Kentucky Wildcats extremely tough, losing in overtime by 1 point. And I do really like their big man, Graham Ike. I probably pronounced his name wrong. He's a problem inside the paint, and as long as he can stay out of foul trouble versus the Georgia Bulldogs, then I don't see them losing in their first round game. However, moving on to the second part of the take, I actually kind of agree that St. Mary's will lose their first game, as they are matched up versus the Vanderbilt Commodores, a squad I actually like and think will surprise people this March. Vanderbilt has some pretty big wins as they've won 3 games versus top 15 teams, and I just think they might be a little too fast and more athletic for this Gale squad. And something that really worries me about this particular matchup that goes in the Commodores' favor is I just trust the Vanderbilt guards more with the rock in their hands. So Ace Fist 5502, I like half of this hot take, but I don't think I can convince myself into believing both of the top schools from the WCC lose in their first round tournament game. Alright, we got 2 hot takes here. Let's start with the first one from Sean Bolger 3986, who says Clemson makes the Final Four this year. These are the type of takes I like. And is it just me, or does it feel like nobody was talking about how good this Clemson squad was this year? I really haven't seen much chatter online about them. I mean, this Tiger squad went 27-6 during the regular season with 2 top 4 wins, taking down Kentucky and the Duke Blue Devils. And their win against Duke was the Blue Devils' only loss since November, which is extremely impressive to me because they caught them when they were hot and pulled out the win. Looking at the side of the bracket the 5th seeded Clemson Tigers are on, they obviously got some big dogs to worry about, as they share a room with Houston, Purdue, Kentucky, Alabama, and Tennessee, and I'm not even including some of the smaller schools. But a couple of things that are going in the Clemson Tigers' favor, well at least to me, is that they have size inside the paint. In March, I feel like having size in the paint to grab boards is so important because I can't tell you how many times I've seen small teams having to waste all of their energy on defense, double teaming the team center, or having to put in way more effort than needed to grab a board, and as a result, being out of energy on the offensive side of the ball. So that's a positive for Clemson, as well as having a dude who can get you a bucket anytime you need one in Chase Hunter. And in March, when things start to slow down, one thing that separates the teams who go on deep runs from the teams who exit early, or if you have yourself, as Dick Vitale would say, a PTP or a primetime player, and this Clemson squad has one. So Sean Bolger 3986, I can see this take happening, Brody. Let's move on to the next take, which comes from Cosmic Creeper 40, who says Michigan gets first rounded. Ooh, this take is fresh out of the oven. I like it, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. Not because I necessarily think the Wolverines are some elite basketball team, although they did just win the Big Ten Conference, so shout out to them. But their first round game is against UC San Diego, and I watched the Tridents play in their Big West Championship game, and to be honest, I was not that impressed. They're decent, but this Michigan Wolverine squad has so much talent. And I just looked on Hard Rock to see how much I could make if I threw money on the Tritons, and they're only like plus 120. Am I missing something? Why are the Wolverines only like a 3-point favorite? Maybe Cosmic Creeper 40 is onto something. This might be one of the hottest takes I've seen so far in this video, which comes from Camouflage 907, who says Duke isn't making it past the Sweet 16, and Auburn isn't making it past the Elite 8. No Captain Morgan, but I low-key agree with this take a lot. Let's start with the first part of this take, which starts with Duke not making it past the Sweet 16. I already know a ton of people think this Duke basketball squad is the one, and I don't really blame you. They finished this year ranked as the #1 team in the AP poll and has the future #1 overall pick on their squad, which always helps your team's chances of making a deep run, obviously. I just have this feeling though, hear me out. I don't really have any stats to back up my claim, so just vibe, but this year's Duke squad is giving me 2016/17 Blue Devil vibes. And for those unfamiliar, that team went like 27-8, won the ACC tourney, was a 2nd seed, and was loaded with NBA talent such as Luke Kennard, Grayson Allen, Jason Tatum, and plenty other future NBA picks, and still lost in their 2nd round game to the 7th seeded South Carolina Gamecocks. Yes, this current Duke squad might be a little bit better than the 2016/17 squad, although I will argue that in 2016/17, the ACC had way more talent, as they were like 3 to 5 top 15 teams in the conference throughout the year. I say that because this squad was loaded and got beat early, and this year's Duke team, while in a pretty chill bracket, their most likely to me Sweet 16 matchup would be against either the Oregon Ducks or Arizona. And while for Oregon I would have to do some mental gymnastics to really believe they could take down Duke, that Arizona squad on the other hand is made to upset some top seeds, as they have size rocking not 1 but 2 7-footers with the college version of J.R. Smith and Caleb Love. Birdie's the definition of a microwave, and if the Duke Blue Devils bring leftovers to dinner, I can really see this Wildcat squad pulling off the ginormous upset. But this is all just amateur lore's headcanon. Who knows, maybe both Duke and Arizona lose in the first round. Moving on to the second part of this take, which has to do with the Auburn Tigers not making it past the Elite 8. I think this take has a better chance at happening than Duke not making it past the Sweet 16. And I only say that because even though Auburn is the #1 overall seed, in my opinion, they have the 2nd toughest region to make it out of, as the Tigers are carpooling with teams like Louisville, Creighton, Michigan, Texas, A&M, Ole Miss, a North Carolina squad who looks extremely dangerous, Iowa State, Marquette, and Michigan State. Sheesh, the South is stacked. And maybe I'm just looking way too deep into things, but Auburn is low-key limping into the tourney. As before heading into March, the Tigers had an outstanding record of 27-2. But once March hit, the Tigers have gone 2-3, which maybe it's just nothing, but it's something to think about. But back to that damn bracket. Just making it to the Elite Eight is going to be extremely tough. They're going to have to potentially take down Louisville in round 2, and maybe Michigan or the team that beat them not too long ago in the Texas A&M Aggies, just to make it to the Sweet 16. For the Elite Eight, having to run through, take your pick in Iowa State, North Carolina, or Michigan State, yeah, I like this take, and I really think Auburn's tournament run stops at the latest in the Elite Eight. And honestly, as a Gator fan, I don't want to see them in the Final Four if we make it that far. So I hope Camouflage 907's take comes true. Fire take, bro. So this is the last hot take of the video. It's coming from Hoop Center 73, who says, Drake to the Elite Eight. Is this DJ Academics burner account? Let me find out. Nah, but for real, I really like this take. It's nice and simple and gets right to the point. So yeah, I totally think Drake can make a run to the Elite Eight. They were pretty insane this season, going 30-3, winning the Missouri Valley Conference, and overall just playing some good ball. And I know there's going to be a couple of people here who think their schedule was ass, which I mean, yeah, their conference wasn't the deepest this year, but they still pulled off some decent wins against Power 5 programs, taking down Kansas State and Vanderbilt. So don't sleep on these boys. And when looking at their side of the bracket, notable teams that Drake might face off against on their road to the Elite Eight, like Missouri, Texas Tech, St. John's, and Arkansas. Out of all those teams, besides maybe St. John's, I can't really find a team who is just leagues better than Drake. I think if they can play their style of ball, which is extremely slow and methodical, then maybe they might be able to make some magic happen in March and advance to the Elite Eight. But it's going to require them to make their shots and execute. Because if they can't, and the pace gets picked up or the league gets stretched too far, I don't know. This Drake squad might be in trouble. But I love the take, Hoop Center 73. Thank you.